Hello. Pardon me, man. Hey, um, this is Theus. Also, Complex Mind, Simple Man. I'm, as you can see from the background, our United Core. You've probably heard me reference it before. Our United Core is or is my community development organization that I started uh, ooh, 2 years ago now, and gone through a couple revamps and everything like that. But now it's time for us to come out and come forward with um, the new focus. So I was trying to be kind of coy, if you will, with some of the things that we were working on, but we're past that now, folks. Um, this is our moment in history, and we're past time. I'm past time for being a little bit more upfront and active in what I'm doing. Now, I'm saying this with full understanding that um, my approach is not like this highly aggressive approach, but it is absolute in my objectives. So even though I'm the only member of our United Core, I'm okay with that. And if you wish to consider joining our United Core, there will be opportunities in the future to do so. Just keep in mind, this is a community development organization, and that means I am focused on my community. I'm focused on the Black community because I believe that in order to effectively engage with our counterparts in this economy, in this political environment, in this country, and even expanded that out into the global community, we have to be more in concert and more intentional with our group so that when we engage, we're able to engage with something to exchange, something to add to the discussion, something to add to the movement. And we really can't do that if we're completely disparate and fighting amongst ourselves or simply don't have a fixed purpose that we're operating from. So, in the grander scheme of things, our United Core is absolutely an organization that is interested and committed to working with other ethnic groups, other interest groups, other communities, because I really do believe for this overall project to work, we all have to work together. But when we come, we need to come ready, right? We're not trying to be people of color. We've had our time of being colored people. I'm not interested. If that's where you are, that's fine. I applaud you, and maybe we can work with you down the road. But I am a Black man, and my community is the Black community here in America. And we are dealing with a number of pressures from the outside, but we've always dealt with these pressures. It's a renewed energy that's happening at the moment. And I don't believe in being a reactionary individual that is stirred and buffeted and moved around by things outside. I think you pay attention to these things, you adjust, you plan, and you execute on your plans. And so, where I sit in this moment is in that planning phase. We are not, I don't believe, I know from me personally, we're not in that operational mode yet. We have to be in the building mode. We have to get on one accord to the extent that we can. And then those who have differing views and differing shades and different ways to approach this, we work with them and um, and make it happen. Right. So anyway, so our United Core, core stands for Communities Organized to Reinforce Excellence, and we focus on a number of different initiatives. At present, the active effort is in education. So you heard me mention it in prior videos on Complex Mind, Simple Man, where I'm working with young people. I'm working with my daughter and other teenagers and preteens, and focusing on educational rigor. Um, really building on some of the skill sets that are being presented to them, but helping them expand that into how do you run a business? How do you envision yourself as the owner, as in control and responsible for and to something? It's not enough to just continue to send our children off to good schools where their identity is under attack, where their individuality is muted. Um, if we're not going to engage forcefully to help fill those gaps in when they come home, don't just send our children out there unprepared, hoping it all just works out, because ultimately it's just simply won't. Um, it's just not what history has shown us. So if we want a better future for our children, we owe it to them to help prepare them for this future that's coming. All right. So two parts here. First of all, they will inherit whatever comes out of the next 20 years. And if we don't, and we won't have a better next 20 years unless we start working hard for it now, because what we do now is built off what we did yesterday. And if you're like me and you don't think we did enough yesterday, then we have to double our efforts today. So that's part of what I'm just wanting to hit on as far as just the Our United Core aspect and why I'm coming back out with it. You'll probably see me a lot more speaking in the respects of Our United Core. One of the big things about my view on the social dynamic is that it's not enough to be against things. I really just don't have the energy to be against a bunch of things when I need to focus so hard on being for some things. So I am intentionally, or I do intentionally minimize other like placeholders, or I guess you could say, like, I uncenter whiteness, right? Not to the detriment or attack of whiteness, because it doesn't ultimately matter, right? I am centering blackness because that's what I'm trying to strengthen. And I do believe that what you show energy and what you show focus towards is that which will have the most results from your energy and your focus. So if I want us to improve our relative positioning in this country, and I want us to weather the storm that we are currently under, then it behooves me to not obsess over what another group is doing or somebody else is doing, and focus 10 toes down on my community and what I would like to see more from us and for us. And what that means is not being blind. What that means is being intentional. That means that so long as you leave me alone to work in my garden, we'll be fine. But if you intrude upon me, you intrude upon my work, I'm going to do my best to make sure that it's the worst decision you ever made. Okay. So I that is the energy that we have to have, that in my opinion, that we have to have. And it's definitely the energy I have. Okay. Now, getting to what I wanted to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about leverage. I want to talk about the accumulation and the application of power and how it can be employed. And I'm going to be speaking about it from the current landscape that we kind of see, that we see ourselves in. So first things I would suggest to you is, if you wanted to know some resources that inform many of my thought processes, and many of the ideas that you're going to hear from me are just adaptations or regurgitations of the great leaders that came before me, I strongly suggest, if you haven't already, to read about Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, Marcus Garvey, really the godfather of it all, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. Many of you know them, Black Panther Party. Also, get familiar with Booker T. Washington. Get familiar with Carter G. Woodson. Get familiar with W.E.B. Du Bois. Get familiar with these greats and these thinkers. And one of the most, I'm sorry, I almost lost one of the most important ones to me, Dr. Amos Wilson. Get to know these people. Check out their videos if you like videos, but more importantly, go get the book, read the books. They chronicle, they put the information together so that we have things to build on, and that's exactly what I intend to do. I plan to build off of the works of these great ancestors. All right, because I don't believe that what they were working on and what they did, I don't believe they failed. I believe that their work was interrupted before it could be finished. And part of the struggle of being a black leader or a black voice is that we are not able to rely on the same legacy opportunities as some of our counterparts. We don't get to rise to the heights of whatever system we're moving in, political, economic, what have you, and expect to just retire and move into the sunset. Not if you're a voice for your people. The reward for our leaders has always been death, exile, or prison. So you can imagine after a couple hundred years of that being the imposed consequence of just simply saying, I want better for my people. That's it. And what we're met with, death, exile, and prison. So have no illusions about this. If you decide that you want to get involved with helping our people and helping our community for the long term, and you're willing to be unapologetic about it, those are probably the things that are in store for you. Those are probably the things that are in store for me. And I'm a super minor actor, but I'm an actor in this thing, and I'm going to play my role. So please check out those greats that I named and many more. And what will happen is as you start to go down that path, you will come across other greats and you'll be able to pick up what works for you. And that's actually a good point as well. We have this temptation of, and this is just, I don't know if it's an American thing or if it's a left thing or whatever it may be, but we have this tendency to seek the perfect. And if that which we subscribe to, that person proves to be less than perfect, then we are very quick to either discard them or try to explain them away. And I think that's the wrong, I know that's the wrong way to go about things. Everybody had to walk a path to get to wherever they are, and nobody did it clean. Nobody did it perfectly. And if somebody did do it clean and somebody did do it perfectly, then you probably don't want to hear what they have to say because they don't have any skin in the game and they're not even interested in making any real waves, right? So try that on. And then also another thing that I would strongly caution is don't follow the person, right? I'm not a very, what do you call it? The word just escaped me. But I don't have a lot of riz, as they say, right? So it's not like you're gonna be like, oh, this is the personality. I know, I get that, okay. But there are those who have a lot more of that savoir-faire or what have you, and it's easy to get locked into them and get led astray, not at first, but later on. The way that you can counsel against that, the way you can hedge against that is focus on the system. Focus on the structure. Okay. You advocate for systems and structures. You don't advocate for personalities and individuals. Don't do that, because what happens when what you're opposing comes after that person or that individual? What happens when their dirty laundry gets aired? What happens when they say the wrong thing at the wrong time? If you're wrapped up in the person, then all the work ends. It all falls apart. And that's your number one that's the number one tactic that, just put it out there, that the white power structure uses, and it uses against itself, and it definitely uses against us as Black people. It will find that flaw and it will say, is this really what you want to put up as your standard bearer? And then we all back off. And we say, no. You know, he was inappropriate towards women, or he disrespected the Pope, or he said something unkind about the queer community. No, 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 no. Focus on the structure, focus on the system. Take what works for you, discard the rest. So if he did these things, say, no, I'm not, I don't rock with that. I don't agree with that. But I do agree with these things. And these are the things I stand for. I stand for these particular aspects of the same things he stood for and he stands for. But that which he did wrong, no, I don't back that. I don't accept that. And if you need to say so, I condemn it. But I don't condemn the man, I don't condemn the woman, because correction, you can. Some people you need to. But don't do it to the detriment of the organization or the structure that you're trying to run, if it is in fact working towards and delivering on your objectives. Okay, that's my little 2 cents as far as that part goes. But I think it's super important. Focus as hard as you can on the things that you believe in, and you really can't go wrong. And plus, once that heat hits you and they got that light on you and they're making the threats towards you, if you don't know what you believe in, you will break instantly. It's only when you get to the point where you believe in something so much that you will die behind it, then you can withstand whatever they do to you. Because the worst they can do is kill you. That's the worst they can do to you. Now, they can do a lot of bad things on the way to that. But if you know you're fixed to purpose and you know what you stand for, then that'll make that suffering worth it, because you're going to suffer regardless. If you can suffer the shame of hiding and being a coward, or you can suffer the anonymity of never trying, or you can suffer the consequences of standing for something and moving for something, right? You're going to suffer regardless. Hey, Parker, how you doing there, man? I thank you for checking in. Let me hit you up here. Speaking on that note, I recently saw a video of a debate from the late 60s between Kwame Ture and George Lincoln Rockwell, leader of the American Nazi Party, and was a very interesting historical video. I'm not sure if I've seen it. I've probably seen it. I've watched so many of his roundtable discussions and things, which is also something that I really would love for us to get more into, regardless, no matter what we're talking about. I'm talking about Black spaces and things like that, but in group dynamics like this, in intergroup dynamics, political, all of these, we need to get back to the round table. We need to get back to you actually having to sit across from or next to someone and talk through ideas, talk through your stances, not just being able to speak one way, or what we've grown accustomed to with these debate styles, where it's just a soundbite circus. So I'm not even interested in what this person over here is saying at the podium way over there. I can just talk my talk and ignore everything else, because all I'm trying to do is get my sound bites. It's a lot harder to do when the person that you're having to compete against is right there in front of you, or they're sitting right next to you. It's a lot harder to do. A lot harder to do. It's harder to be brave and talk nonsense. It's harder to hide behind sound bites when the person that you're talking to can easily say, no, wait, let's stay on tack. Let's stay on that subject. Let's dig into that. So thank you, Parker. I know that wasn't quite what you were referencing, but that right there is something that I would love to do. I'm not a big enough fish for a lot of these other content creators to want to talk to just yet. And that's cool too. I'm all right with that. But I want that. I want to either see it or do it, man. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people don't want to get down and talk like that. They want to hide and stuff like that. And then on that note, I said this in the last video, not in these terms, but it's the same thing. Please, people, be careful these outrage manufacturers, these so-called influencers that are just, outrage pushers, emotional pimps. All right. And what I mean by that are people who will get out here and they will talk. They'll talk like I'm talking right now. They'll talk all that good talk. They'll do it better than I'm doing it. But then you listen through the whole thing. And not once do they lay out a plan. Not once do they tell you what they prescribe. Not once do they help you decide what to do with that energy that they stirred up in you. They just dissect. That's it. They just this is what happened, and we're gonna talk about it, and then and get you wound up. But then it's like, well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Right? Please, folks, expect more out of these people. At least I do. I expect more. I had a comment on a brother earlier today. Might have been yesterday. It was yesterday. And I'm just like feeding off his energy, and old boy decides to be mad at me. But it's whatever on that. Now I'm gonna shift over to what I was gonna say. I had somebody was trying to come in my recording area. It threw me off a bit. See. With certain Supreme Court rulings taking U.S. back to the 60s in certain respects or aspects, like the rolling back of the Voting Rights Act, I think learning how people fought back in the 60s is important. It is important, Parker. Man, I'm trying to find the right words for this. Okay, I'm gonna walk it down like this. Okay, so yes, we do need to look back at those who came before us and gather ideas, but that can't be enough, and that is not enough in this moment because we've had ample time to do that. Just speaking from the Black struggle, because you just mentioned the Voting Rights Act. I mean, slavery ends in 1865, and white America throws a fit. The part that lost throws a fit, and the U.S. government pays them reparations and leaves the formerly enslaved Africans who have been brutalized with nothing. No rights, no protections. Then, because there was a little bit of goodwill, I'll say, Freedmen's Bureau stood up. And why was it stood up? It was because white people were trying to kill Black people for daring to no longer be enslaved. So it took a war to stop enslaving us. It took an army to stop terrorizing us and murdering us as we were trying to build our own communities because you wouldn't let us in yours. Then we end up with Jim Crow, and it took the death of countless leaders and countless workers and countless sympathizers and countless supporters to finally get another law, the Voting Rights Act, that say, let these people vote. And here we are. So if you think, okay, the adults at the end of slavery, it was their children that did the nonsense with the Freedmen's Bureau. Then it was their children and grandchildren both with Jim Crow. And now here we are with their children and their grandchildren doing this again. I'm laughing because I'm not even mad, Joe. I'm not even mad. I expected this. If you've been hearing me for a couple of years, and Parker, I know you have. I already knew this was coming. What annoys me is that people are acting like it's something new, and your comment fed this to come out of me, bro, because this is exactly what should have been expected. This is what was forecasted. This is what was promised. And so what I'm sitting back watching are two things. One, How are the non-oppressive white members of the community going to react to this? Because see, there ain't much we can react to because you literally just got in the way of our voting rights. So that's the only non-violent option that we had, and y'all let this flow because we couldn't stop it. Our numbers are not enough to be able to stop this, but your numbers are. And the fight wasn't big enough. The Democrats didn't fight big enough for it. The Independents didn't fight big enough for it. They did the black vote the same way they did women's autonomy. It's like, yo, it's important, but it doesn't really affect me. So it never rose high enough in the protection scale. So now it's like, hey, let's see how they fight it out. You took us out to fight. Because I guarantee you, I can't guarantee you much of anything. You took us out to fight. And that's what I'm talking about with our united core and everything like that, is I'm not even talking politics in this. You wanted us out of, big you, wanted us out of the political discussion? Fine. I advocate for us completely withdrawing from it anyway. It's over. We'll work with, if to the extent we're able, vote for local elections, because that's who actually directly impacts our world. But let's be real, that don't even much matter. It doesn't. The enemy is clear. The force of opposition is clear. I don't need to guess or pussyfoot or play around with it. So withdraw and understand what comes with withdrawal, right? Because it's not going to be easy. Like the example of the Tennessee redistricting to carve up the one Democratic district in Memphis. You have Republicans making the same racist arguments people made back in the day. Just right. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same people. It's their children. It's their children. They bounced on grandpa's lap and was fed the same frustration and angst and scapegoating that they had. It's been passed right on down. I am a pretty firm belief that the white allies that we have for like just being decent people, y'all kind of descend from the people who've been fighting this fight since the beginning. You descend from the fellow civil rights workers. You descend from the abolitionists. You descend from the obstructionists. That's why you're different. But the ones who are all for this I don't even believe in supremacy, but all for this domination and suppression, those people descend from the other side. And so it's the same generation after generation, we're just picking up the same fight. So yeah, they're using the same arguments, but whatever. No matter, as I said in the previous video, these laws are passed not for us, right? These laws are passed because white men keep trying to harm other people. These laws are passed for white men. So they just decided they don't want to listen to them. And I can't stop them. But what I can say is, not even unlike, because many of my ancestors very much stood up and fought back. And I descend from that line. So leave me alone or don't. Right? Let's see. It's interesting because for people my age, a lot of this is new, and we only started coming into adulthood during Trump's first term. And that's fair. One of the great things about where we sit in current time, I guess you should say, is young people in America across the board, they really aren't that interested in race. But the problem is, it's always been that way. Conservatism, as I don't even know exactly how they say it, but it's like when you're young and liberal, a young liberal becomes an old conservative. What do they say? Because once you start to have a family, once you start to have assets, once you inherit some of the power that is laid up for you when you get older, and I'm talking to you, Parker, and fellows, it becomes a lot easier to become conservative because now you have something to preserve. And so the the idealism and the energy and the goodness of youth starts to give way to the cynicism and the practicality of age. So that's why we keep fighting the same fight, generation after generation, because those who inherit the privilege, while they many would like better for their fellow man, they're not willing to accept worse for their own children. So around and around we go. So for me, is now the thing is, got to decide how we're going to respond to it. Okay, and the way you respond to it is subject to how you move through the world. The way I'm choosing to respond to it is I want to build. I want to raise the consciousness and elevate the energy and consolidate the organizational power of my people. I want to build our own educational platforms and build our own educational resources. So when they start starving the public school system more than they already have, and we are now entrusted, when required, to take a more active role in raising and educating our children, all poor people are going to have a problem. Okay, because when they decide we're going virtual learning, and those who learn, and those who don't. And if you don't have the discipline and the structure to teach your children when they stop, and first of all, they haven't done a good job. The school system hasn't done a good job of teaching them anyway, but it's what we had. And instead of investing in it and pushing to make it better, which was my position up until recently, but especially in the Black community, we just didn't assert ourselves. Well, now our children are going to be turned away from public education because the resources will be hard redirected. If you think about how fast, okay, when pre-clearance, right, section 4, when pre-clearance got struck down in 2013, immediately states like Tennessee started writing rules to obstruct voting access immediately, as soon as pre-clearance was gone. Now they struck down section 2, which allows them to just basically redraw districts on the basis of race willy-nilly. And what happened? Immediately, Tennessee made a move. And they're not alone. You know, Georgia's facing some pressures. You'll definitely see it out of like Texas, things like that. We've all been seeing these things. So the fact that they're able to move that fast lets you know that they were already working on it. This is an orchestrated plan. The issue that I have is that our enemies have orchestrated plans and have been working on them feverishly for 40, 60, 80, 100 years. And those of us who oppose it, the decent people of America who oppose it, have not been working with the same energy to oppose it. We just oppose it in energy, in thought, right? Where are our think tanks? Where are our media companies that are actually doing something? They're actually speaking up. Where are the well-funded legal organizations? Where's our Heritage Foundation? Our, meaning those who are not conservatives. Where is it? What's it doing? Why don't we have one that's that aggressive and that smart and that nimble? We don't, because what we traded off, instead of focusing on social and cultural protection and growth, we focused on material wealth and acquisition. So now the left, those who are the power brokers of the left, are focused on wealth. That's it. And those on the right are focused on culture and identity. And they're taking over the country on those bases, because they know that because the other side is obsessed with wealth, all we got to do is give them a little bit of our wealth and they won't get in the way. And that's why you had the fall of the Voting Rights Act. That's why you had the fall of women's autonomy. Because as long as I can pay Democrats, and as long as I can pick the Democrats, they'll look away. And as long as I can disillusion the youth, they won't participate. That's where we're at. And they're like, well, hey, Theus, you're talking about withdrawing. Yeah, I'm talking about withdrawing, but I'm talking about withdrawing after you've already taken away a lot of my tools. Right? I'm talking about withdrawing after I showed up for the game, and when I got to the locker room, somebody stole my shoes. The basketball ain't got no air in it, and I'm supposed to have a team of 5, and 2 of them just got beat up and shoved in a trash can somewhere. And I'm saying, you know what? I ain't gonna get on the court. Y'all can have it. Let's go start our own league. Let's go focus on how do we get the popcorn vendor contract. We'll sell the we'll sell the popcorn. Let them go do what they do over there. And if they come over here and they try to take my popcorn business from me, when I already gave up the game, I'm over here trying to mind my business, take care of my people, sell some popcorn to you people so you can go out there and do what you want to do. And you still want to come from? Okay, cool. You're not getting out of here. You walk over, you limp back. That's my attitude, right? But anyway, I'm going to try to share this thing. I'm not very good with the mechanics of this, so I apologize in advance. Let's see. I think I got this. All right. So, a couple key terms. First one, power. Power is the ability to influence or control people, events, and resources. So when you look at this and you are a member of the community and you say to yourself, what do we do? They just took away our voting rights. And I say to you that they can't truly take away anything from you. They can only obstruct you from it. As a citizen, either you are a citizen of America or you are not, brothers and sisters. So if you are a citizen of America, then they can't take your citizen's rights from you. Your voting rights are your rights as a citizen. So that means only one of 2 things. Either 1, we're not citizens, or 2, someone is trying to obstruct you from that which you already have. And if it's the first one, well, I don't even know what to say about that one. You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, I just don't know what to say about that one. In fact, there's something I would say, but I'm not going to say it because once you put it out there, it's a whole nother issue. So I'm not going to. So let's focus on another one. Someone is standing between you and your rights. The only way they can do it is because they have power. They have more power than we do. So the answer to someone having more power than you do is you must now get more power. Because power is the ability to influence or control people, events, and resources, right? What are the things that we can employ from where we stand? What is our power base? Let's be honest. I've looked at it. I don't know what it is. We've allowed the infrastructure of our church to weaken to the point where most of us don't either don't believe or we don't participate. There's no organization behind those of us who do manage to get wealth. Those of us who manage to get wealth are largely independent actors who think that they are somehow achieving escape velocity. So if your hand is, as Malcolm said, if your hand is spread out like this, there's not a lot of force. But if you bring it together, a lot of force. So long as everybody's an independent actor, we have no power. We don't own the means of production for anything, right? We're not pulling nothing out of the ground. Why? Because America made sure we couldn't. When the ability to secure natural resources was an ability, we were still enslaved. So we don't own means of production. So we have to focus on how do we get more power? And I would say one of the ways we do this, because like I come with solutions, I come with ideas, folks. One of the ways we have to focus on is we got to re-engage with the church. We have to re-engage with our spiritual roots, not because I'm I'm not a Christian. So, I mean, it's not that. It's the fact that we are a spiritual people. We are grounded in the spiritual world. And it's how we can communicate, network, and work together. It's proven to work for us for hundreds of years. Don't abandon what worked. Dig in, make it stronger, reinforce it, and prepare to fight for it. That's what we need to do there. And then our small businesses. Our small businesses, one of the reasons that we struggle in small businesses is because we're undercapitalized. Why are we undercapitalized? Because we've been frozen out of a lot of the networks and higher paid positions that would allow you to accumulate wealth, which then allows you to accumulate assets, which then allows you to deploy the proceeds from those assets to then start and fund better funded businesses, right? So if we have the power base of the church, we have the power base of shared resources in the areas where we are most competitive in the economic market, then between those two things, you will now start to accumulate power, because power means you have the ability to influence, control, right? Now, when we move from there, leverage. Leverage is, the definition is here: the use of a tool, strategy, or borrowed capital with increased potential results, influence, or mechanical advantage. In other words, it's the ability to take power and employ it to serve your needs. Okay? It's the ability to take power and employ it to serve your needs. If you don't have power, you don't have leverage. The lack of leverage is the lack of power, and the lack of leverage is one of the major reasons why they were able to dismantle the Voting Rights Act. The lack of power, the lack of leverage is one of the major reasons that coming out of enslavement, our generations inherited poverty, where our opposition and our enemies inherited wealth, inherited privilege, because we didn't have power. So we got to get back about the business of accumulating power. I'm not interested, honestly, in trying to mount an opposition to MAGA. Not yet. Right now, I need to build. We got to come together, because a revolutionary of one is a dead revolutionary. So they don't want us involved. For all of our accelerationists and our doomsday dumbasses leading into this, right? And I mean, doomsday dumbasses are the ones that were like, they're all the same. Both parties are the same. It doesn't matter who wins and blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool, y'all. Hey, y'all were dumb then, you're dumb now, but you won. You got your way. What's your plan for us? I say it all the time. What's your plan for us? And these very same people, they don't have a plan. They're not offering you anything. So stop listening to them. They're all over YouTube. Gets on my blanking nerves. Whatever. Straight up and down. So let's get the power. Let's get the leverage. And then once you have the leverage, you can play politics again. We can come back to the political game. All right. Because politics is the process of making decisions, managing affairs, blah, 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 blah. Politics is how resources are allocated. Okay? And resources are allocated through politics on the basis of leverage, which is reinforced by power. Here's an example. We overwhelmingly dominate the athletic positions in NFL football. We pretty much all heard this before. Okay? Makes a lot of individual millionaires. And yet we don't own any teams. We're like 85% of the players. I don't know what percentage of the coaches would. 10%, 20%. I don't know. I don't even watch football because I got my issues. But you can't play the game without us. Because if you get rid of us, guess what? Don't nobody want to watch. Just be real. We're the gladiators in the pit. And so, but they are trying to find a way to shift into this UFC thing, which is going to replace the boxing world or has replaced the boxing world, but it still doesn't have quite the same draw. NFL football, NBA basketball, Major League Baseball, these are institutions, right? So we get into these fields, we dominate them. They'll make individuals amongst us very wealthy because that allows, if I can make you wealthy, it allows you to not look at your people anymore. You're not one of them anymore. You're different. And what we have to find a way to do is crack that code. And that doesn't mean stop playing in the NFL. No. That would be a really strategic and tactical bad play, I guess. Personally, I do want the NFL to fail. I want the whole thing to fall apart because I don't like what it does to the athletes. It's easy for me to say because I'm not one of them, but the CTE, the health issues, the chronic injuries, all these different things, it's just not worth the money because you have a couple who make a lot of money, but the rest of them, they're like banged up, hurt up, 2-3 years in, you never hear from them again. You never got to know their name. They made a decent amount of money for 2 or 3 years. Let's say they made $200,000 a year playing football. All right. Well, if you don't have any medical insurance when you come out and you don't have any connections and you didn't apply yourself in school academically, so all you really had was your physical talents, and now that's been taken from you. Now what happens to you? No one's thinking about you. Nobody's watching you. You're just burned out somewhere, and that's not right. So that's my biggest gripe with the NFL. But going back to what I was saying, you get with the athletes and you say, okay, cool, guys. I'm not asking you to give up your career. You worked hard for this. But there's no reason why you can't develop a rec league. You can't develop an alternative league that is like a farm league, which gives young people the opportunity to get seen, to get noticed, to get their and images, contracts, and things of that nature outside of the collegiate system, right? Especially in the basketball world. This would be game changing in the basketball world, right? So that's one of the ways we can take power. We can look at where are our competitive advantages. Where does America still allow us to make money and will continue to let us make money because America wants to be entertained by us? Use that money to build an economic base. You make money because as it's successful, you make money. But your community is getting stronger and you're getting new business owners and you're getting new agents and all the things that come with it. You get a new food vendor, you get everything that comes with a burgeoning league. And it's not a direct competitor to the NBA because I switched to basketball, y'all. It's not a direct competitor to the NBA because it's the NBA. Nobody's competing with the NBA. But you can have your and one league or whatever you want to call it league, and people will pay to come see these things. And there'll be a national game, a national market. And these people can now become a secondary source for the NBA to draw from for bringing in new talent. This is one of the ways that we can create an economic power base. You create more wealth in the community. Now we have more leverage. And at the same time, which I'm not going to go into this one, I should have done it, but my alternative governing structure that is specific to our community. It's not enough to just withdraw from U.S. politics. They're shutting the door anyway. They're shutting the door and putting a lock on it. What I'm saying is instead of banging on a door and begging to come into the place that once you get in, they're just going to put you on the table and chop you up. Fine, close the door, lock the door. But we're not just going to go home. We're going to walk away from the door. We're going to go into another building. And we're going to build our own unofficial Congress, our own unofficial networks of representatives, our own think tanks and PACs. And the whole purpose of it is, how do we govern Black affairs? How do we build redundancy in our leadership structure? How do we create a leadership structure, first of all? And then how do we create the redundancy in it? We're still part of America. We're still subject to the laws. We're not trying to build some kind of weird insurrection. We're just saying, you don't want us over there. We're going to come over here, but we're not just going to sit on our hands and cry and say, woe is me, woe is me. No, if it's fuck you, then if it's fuck me, it's fuck you too. So I don't want to be with you. Right? It's hard to be rejected when you reject them too. Right? So people are talking about the threat of segregation. Well, segregation is something that is imposed upon you by someone who has more power and leverage. Separation is voluntary. Separation is, oh, you don't want me there? Cool. I don't want to be there either. I'm going away. Y'all have fun over there. At least basketball doesn't have nearly as many injuries and doesn't take as big a toll on player careers. Exactly. And I like the sovereign citizens movement. Yeah, no, because the sovereign citizens, they like seem to think that they should have all of the perks of being an American citizen, none of the responsibilities because I'm sovereign. Well, then get off my road, right? Like, go drive in the dirt over there because you sovereign. Right? You don't have to go by any of the rules and laws of America because whatever. Cool. Well, the things that belong to America, stop using them. Right? So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we divest ourselves of our citizenship. No, we have planted blood, soil, and tears into this. So we're citizens. Still citizens. You're refusing to acknowledge we're citizens. But that doesn't change the fact that we are citizens. And that's where the sovereign citizen thing kind of does overlap, where I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm telling you, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I know what my rights are. I just know that you're trying to obstruct me from my rights. And so long as you're trying to obstruct me from my rights, but you're not standing in front of me doing it, then that's your business. You can hate me all day long. I don't mind. But once you come over here and you try to impose your will upon me, well, guess what? I'm willing to go. Are you? That's what it's got to be. So I'm really, really pushing for us as a community to listen to, like Parker mentioned, listen to the lessons from our past, listen to what we've been taught by our predecessors, but at the same time build on it. Right? If we can get another land, I don't think that would be a good idea, right? Not for the reasons that like Byron Rustin and them used to think back in the 60s, where they're like, well, if we're all in the same place, they'll come and blow us up. Either they're trying to kill us all together, or they're gonna try to kill us separated. The fact that you're gonna try to kill you, they're gonna try to kill you. You can't stop that, but what you can do is make sure when they try to come kill you, it's even Stevens. That's what you can do. That's not subject to their will. That's subject to your will, right? Make the decision up front what you will do in the event of certain circumstances. And then if those circumstances never happen, then you're able to continue to operate as normal. And if those circumstances do happen, you already know what to do. Right? So build it anyway. Right. So you hear about Black Wall Street and like, well, they tore it down, they burned it down. Yes, they did. And I'm saying build it again. Just build it based on the current environment, based on current technology, based on the future projection and desired outcomes, and understand that the nature of your enemy is such that they are going to try to come after it, and just make sure that when they do, you make the cost as high as absolutely possible. Even if you can't win, you fight to the end of your ability to fight back. Iran is literally a much larger example of what I'm just saying. Right? Be creative, but be committed to something. And I know I didn't really lay it out too well, how to be what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, but that's the big thing. Be committed to something. Be committed to your children. Be committed to your children having a better opportunity. Like, it drives me nuts that my children have fewer rights than I did when I was growing up. You know how wild that is as a Black person? That our children have fewer rights than we had. So literally skip one generation and you're right back into fighting for your rights again. That should make you angry. But not angry to the point that you just like spaz out. Angry to the point where you take some of the things that I talked about, as far as let's start having neighborhood schools, let's start talking to each other's children, let's start taking care of our elders as a collective unit, let's start supporting Black businesses intentionally. Let's start being intentional about achieving the outcomes we say that we want. Right. So I'm gonna leave this right here. That was my rambling talk for this evening. But if you have a no, I'm not even gonna make that. I'm not even gonna make that call right now. Forget it. Another time. Words matter. Let's focus on getting some power. Don't focus so much on what you don't have. Don't focus so much on who's against you. Focus on who is with you. Focus on what you do have, and focus on making those things stronger, make those relationships stronger, bring your resources together, find ways to make them grow, operate within your core competencies. And then later on, we can re-engage. But we're in a survival mode and we're in a fight back mode. And if you're not at that point, chat, hope you get there soon, because what's coming is going to be coming really fast. Okay. In the span of these 2 years, just 2 years, we have watched the women be attacked. We have watched immigrants be attacked. We have watched foreign nations be attacked. We have watched blindness to genocide. And now there is a concentrated attack on the Black community. What does it take? What will it take for you to start to take this seriously? And that's something only you can answer. But I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna keep doing what I do. I hope you do what you do. And thank you, Parker, for joining me this evening. Thank you for anybody who sees this video going forward. And this was a fusion of Complex Mind, Simple Man, and Our United Core. I may do more Our United Core content coming forward, but this is really just me letting you guys know our OUC is back, but we're back in a different way than how we started. And that's just how it's got to be. Going forward, you'll probably see Complex Mind content. So anyway, y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.